The disappearance of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 about to be solved.
One of the most terrible aviation tragedies is the disappearance of Malaysian Flight 370. For years, the exact location of the aircraft has eluded searchers who have invested lots of time and energy into finding it. However, a surprising discovery by researchers has finally revealed the location of the infamous Flight 370. In this video, we bring you all the details of the shocking discovery. For many people, the incident of the disappearance of the flight MH370 is a mystery, as the aircraft seemed to not leave a trail like it disappeared into thin air. However, solving the mystery of its location requires clues from what transpired during the flight. What exactly happened to flight MH370? Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, a Boeing 777-200ER, took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on March 8, 2014, destined for Beijing Capital International Airport. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. The flight was expected to be routine, but it would soon become one of the most baffling mysteries in aviation history. The aircraft took off at 12:41 a.m. local time. For the first 38 minutes, everything seemed normal. The plane communicated with air traffic control and followed its planned route. At 1:19 a.m., as the plane was transitioning from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace, the Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control Center radioed the crew with a handover message to Ho Chi Minh Air Traffic Control. The co-pilot responded with, "Good night, Malaysian 370. This would be the last time anyone on the ground would hear from MH370. Shortly after the last communication, at around 1:21 a.m., the plane's transponder, which communicates with ground-based radar, was turned off or failed. This meant that civilian radar could no longer track the aircraft. However, military radar continued to track MH370 as it deviated from its planned route. Instead of heading north to Beijing, it turned westward, over the Malay Peninsula. Even though the transponder was off, the aircraft's satellite communication system continued to send hourly pings to a satellite owned by Inmarsat. These pings didn't provide specific location data, but they indicated that the plane was still powered and flying. The last full handshake was at 8:11 a.m., suggesting the plane had been flying for nearly 7 hours after losing contact with air traffic control. The disappearance of MH370 prompted one of the most extensive search and rescue operations in history. Here's a timeline of the initial efforts. March 8, 2014. When MH370 failed to land in Beijing, it was declared missing. The initial search focused on the South China Sea, where the plane's signal was last detected by civilian radar. March 9, 2014. As the search continued, officials expanded the area to the Strait of Malacca, after military radar data suggested the plane might have turned back. March 12, 2014. The search area grew larger, extending to the Andaman Sea. Multiple countries, including China, the US, and India, joined the search efforts, contributing ships, aircraft, and satellite imagery. March 15, 2014. Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak announced that the plane's communication systems had been deliberately disabled, and that the aircraft might have flown for up to 7 hours after losing contact. Based on the satellite pings, 2 possible corridors were identified: a northern corridor stretching from northern Thailand to Kazakhstan, and a southern corridor from Indonesia to the southern Indian Ocean. March 16, 2014. The focus shifted to the southern corridor after further analysis of satellite data. Several countries, including Australia, began searching the southern Indian Ocean. Satellite images from Australia, China, and France showed potential debris, but none were confirmed to be from MH370. March 24, 2014. Prime Minister Razak announced that based on new satellite analysis, MH370's last position was in the middle of the Indian Ocean, west of Perth, Australia. He stated with deep regret that the flight ended in the southern Indian Ocean. March 25, April 2014. The search continued in the southern Indian Ocean, with ships and aircraft from multiple countries scouring the area. Several acoustic signals, possibly from the plane's black boxes, were detected, but they did not lead to any significant discoveries. Throughout April and the subsequent months, the search intensified, with underwater drones and specialized equipment deployed to scan the ocean floor. Despite these efforts, MH370 remained elusive. The disappearance of MH370 is a tragic event that has left families and loved ones in anguish and the aviation world in shock. The extensive search and rescue operations, international cooperation, and the use of advanced technology underscore the global commitment to solving this mystery. However, despite these efforts, the final resting place of MH370 and the reasons for its disappearance remain unknown. One of the most controversial and intriguing theories about the fate of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 is that it was a case of pilot suicide. According to this theory, the captain of the flight, Zaharia Ahmad Shah, deliberately flew the plane off course and into the southern Indian Ocean, taking his life and that of all 238 passengers and crew on board. The first piece of evidence is the flight path of MH370. After taking off from Kuala Lumpur at 0:41 local time on March 8, 2014, the plane was supposed to fly to Beijing, following a northeastern route over the South China Sea. However, at 1:19, the plane made its last verbal contact with air traffic control, saying, "Good night, Malaysian 370. A few minutes later, the plane's transponder and ACARS, or Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, were switched off or disabled, making the plane invisible to civilian radar. The plane then made a sharp left turn and flew back over the Malay Peninsula, crossing into the Strait of Malacca. It then turned right and flew south over the Indian Ocean for about 6 hours until it ran out of fuel and crashed. The second piece of evidence is the pilot's background and behavior. Zahari Ahmad Shah was a 53-year-old veteran pilot with more than 18,000 hours of flying experience. He was married with 3 children and had no known history of mental illness or criminal activity. However, some investigators and experts have suggested that he might have had personal or professional problems that could have driven him to suicide. For example, some reports claimed that he was having marital issues or an affair, that he was a political activist who opposed the Malaysian government, that he was depressed or lonely, or that he was obsessed with aviation and wanted to end his career in a spectacular way. The third piece of evidence is the pilot's home flight simulator. After the disappearance of MH370, investigators searched Zahari's home and seized his personal computer and flight simulator. They found that he had used the simulator to practice flying routes, similar to the one taken by MH370, including flying over the Indian Ocean and landing on remote islands. They also found that he had deleted some data from his simulator a few weeks before the flight. Some analysts have interpreted this as a sign that he was planning to hijack the plane and fly it to an unknown destination or crash it into the ocean. The fourth piece of evidence is the lack of communication or distress signals from the plane. According to this theory, Zahari deliberately avoided any contact with air traffic control or anyone else after switching off the communication systems. He also prevented anyone else on board from sending any messages or alerts by locking the cockpit door, disabling the emergency transponder, or depressurizing the cabin to incapacitate or kill the passengers and crew. He then flew the plane on a predetermined course until it crashed. The fifth piece of evidence is the absence of any other plausible explanation. Despite years of investigation and search efforts, no definitive cause or motive for the disappearance of MH370 has been established. No terrorist group has claimed responsibility. No mechanical failure or weather condition has been identified. No evidence of a fire or explosion has been detected. No signs of a struggle or interference have been found. No other person on board has been implicated. The only person who had the means, opportunity, and possibly motive to divert and crash the plane was Zahari Ahmad Shah. Another theory is that the flight was hijacked. This theory posits that the aircraft was deliberately taken off course by an individual or group, either for political, personal, or financial reasons. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence that supports the hijacking theory is the aircraft's erratic flight path. After its last communication with air traffic control, MH370 made a series of unexpected turns, deviating significantly from its planned route to Beijing. These maneuvers suggest that someone with knowledge of the aircraft's systems was in control. In addition, the aircraft's two main communication systems, the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System and the transponder, were turned off or disabled within minutes of each other. This deliberate action indicates an attempt to make the plane invisible to both civilian radar and ground-based communication systems. Apart from these, satellite data suggests that MH370 continued to fly for several hours after it lost contact with air traffic control. This extended flight time, combined with the deliberate course changes, indicates that the plane was under controlled flight rather than spiraling out of control due to a technical malfunction. And you might also wonder why, despite the unexpected course changes and the disabling of communication systems, no distress calls were made from the aircraft. This lack of communication suggests that the pilots might have been incapacitated or were prevented from sending out a distress signal, consistent with a hijacking scenario. However, for the hijacking theory to hold, there must be a motive for the hijack. What could have led some group of people to hijack MH570? Some theorize that the hijacking could have been a politically motivated act. The plane's disappearance could have been intended as a statement against the Malaysian government or another political entity. But the truth is that no group has come forward to claim responsibility, which is unusual for politically motivated hijackings. Another possibility is that the hijackers intended to ransom the passengers or the aircraft. However, no ransom demands have been publicly disclosed. Additionally, the idea of hijacking a plane for its potential scrap value has been discussed, although the logistics of secretly landing and dismantling such a large aircraft make this scenario less likely. It's also possible that an individual with a personal grievance or agenda was responsible for the hijacking. This could range from a disgruntled employee seeking revenge to someone with a personal vendetta against a passenger or the airline. Some experts, however, have drawn parallels with the 9/11 attacks, making them conclude that MH370 was hijacked with the intention of using it in a subsequent terror attack. The plane, loaded with fuel, could have been used as a weapon. However, no such attack has occurred, and no group has claimed responsibility. There is another theory that is even more shocking. MH370 was accidentally shot down. How could MH370 have been shot down? At the time of MH370's disappearance, several countries were conducting military exercises in the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean. It's conceivable that the aircraft could have been misidentified as a potential threat. Military exercises often involve live fire drills, and there have been past instances where civilian aircraft were mistakenly targeted during such operations. For instance, in 1988, the U.S. Navy accidentally shot down Iran Air Flight 655, mistaking it for a hostile jet. If MH370 had inadvertently flown into a live-fire exercise, it could have been targeted. Also, the erratic flight path of MH370, as reconstructed from available data, suggests that the plane might have been trying to evade something or was under external control. After its last communication with air traffic control, the aircraft made a series of turns and flew back across the Malay Peninsula. This change in direction could be interpreted as an evasive maneuver. Additionally, the fact that the plane's transponder was turned off just as it entered Vietnamese airspace could indicate an attempt to go dark and avoid detection, possibly after being alerted to or perceiving a threat. The regions over which MH370 flew are heavily monitored by military radar systems. If the plane had been shot down, it's likely that one or more governments detected the event but chose not to disclose it, either to avoid diplomatic incidents or to cover up a tragic mistake. The reluctance of certain nations to share radar data in the immediate aftermath of the disappearance could be seen as an attempt to hide evidence. Now, one of the most puzzling aspects of the MH370 mystery is the scarcity of wreckage found. While some debris confirmed to be from the plane has washed ashore on islands in the Indian Ocean, The main wreckage site has never been located. If the plane was shot down, especially by a missile designed to destroy aircraft, it would have broken into numerous pieces, scattering debris over a wide area. This scattering could make it more challenging to locate the main crash site, especially if it's underwater. Over the years, several individuals have come forward claiming to have inside information or evidence supporting the shoot-down theory. While many of these claims lack verifiable evidence and should be taken with a grain of skepticism, they add to the narrative that the plane's disappearance was not due to a simple accident or pilot action. One can also consider the Southern Arc theory, based on satellite handshakes with the plane, which suggests that MH370 ended its flight in the southern Indian Ocean. Some proponents of the shoot-down theory argue that this data could have been misinterpreted or even tampered with to divert attention from the real crash site. Besides the aforementioned Iran Air Flight 655, there have been other instances where civilian planes were shot down, either accidentally or deliberately. The most notable is Korean Air Flight 007, which was shot down by the Soviet Union in 1983 after it strayed into prohibited airspace. These incidents highlight the fact that such tragedies, while rare, are within the realm of possibility. Another theory, however, that is more practical is that the cargo of dangerous goods within the belly of the aircraft proved to be its doom. The cargo included lithium-ion batteries, which exploded and caused the plane to experience a mechanical problem. This theory is grounded in several compelling arguments. Lithium-ion batteries, commonly used in electronic devices such as smartphones, laptops, and cameras, are known to be volatile under certain conditions. If these batteries are damaged, short-circuited, overcharged, or exposed to high temperatures, they can catch fire or even explode. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has documented numerous incidents where lithium-ion batteries have caused fires on planes. Given that MH370 was carrying a significant shipment of these batteries, it's plausible that a malfunction or damage to one or more of these batteries could have initiated a fire. Then you need to consider the sudden and unexplained change in course. Some proponents of the lithium-ion battery theory suggest that a fire in the cargo hold could have led to rapid decompression or other critical system failures. In response, the pilots might have changed course to attempt an emergency landing at the nearest suitable airport. If the fire then incapacitated the crew or further damaged the aircraft's systems, it could explain why the plane continued flying off course until it eventually ran out of fuel and crashed. There could also have been a breakdown in communication. If a fire broke out on board, it could have quickly damaged the aircraft's communication systems, explaining why there was no distress call from the pilots. The rapid progression of a fire, especially one fueled by lithium-ion batteries, could have overwhelmed the crew before they had a chance to communicate the emergency to air traffic control. There have been several documented incidents where lithium-ion batteries have caused or been suspected of causing fires on aircraft. For instance, in 2010, a UPS cargo plane crashed in Dubai after a fire broke out on board. The investigation revealed that the plane was carrying a large shipment of lithium-ion batteries, which was believed to have played a role in the fire. Similarly, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner faced grounding orders in 2013 due to concerns about its lithium-ion battery system after several incidents of fires. These precedents underscore the potential risks associated with transporting large quantities of lithium-ion batteries by air. The official report on MH370's disappearance, released by the Malaysian government, acknowledged the presence of lithium-ion batteries in the plane's cargo. While the report did not conclusively state that the batteries caused a fire, it did not rule out the possibility. The acknowledgement of the batteries' presence and the known risks they pose lends some credence to this theory. However, there were initial contradictions regarding the shipment of lithium-ion batteries on MH370. Malaysia Airlines initially claimed that the batteries were not on the cargo manifest, but later investigations revealed that over 200 kilograms of batteries were indeed on board. This discrepancy has led some to believe that the potential dangers of the battery shipment might have been downplayed or overlooked. One of the arguments against other theories, such as a mid-air explosion, is the lack of widespread debris. A fire caused by lithium-ion batteries could have incapacitated the plane's systems and crew, leading the plane to fly on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and made a relatively intact water landing. This could explain the scarcity of debris found in the initial days after the plane's disappearance. A team of researchers from the University of Western Australia UWA joined the search for the crash site of MH370. The team has used reverse drift modeling and a new aircraft tracking technology to analyze the debris and the signals from the plane. Reverse drift modeling is a technique that uses ocean currents, winds, and waves to simulate the movement of floating objects in the water. The team has applied this technique to 22 pieces of debris that have been confirmed or are highly likely to be from MH370. These include a flaperon, a wing part, and a cabin interior panel. The team has also used satellite data and drift analysis from other sources to validate their results. The team has published 2 studies on their findings. The first one was in 2017 and predicted the resting place of MH370 at longitude 96.5 E and latitude 32.5 S with a 40 km or 25-mile radius. This location is at the northern end of the search area that was searched by the official search operation until it was called off in January 2017. The second study was in 2021 and used a new aircraft tracking technology called Weak Signal Propagation Reporter, WSPR, to detect and track MH370. WSPR is a system that uses low-power radio signals to communicate with other stations around the world. The team found that MH370 had a WSPR transmitter on board that was sending signals every hour until it ran out of fuel. The team used these signals to reconstruct the flight path of MH370 and found 67 positions for MH370 over the 6 hours 27 minutes of flight from the plane's last known radar position. The team also claimed that the prime location of the crash site was 29, 128 degree S99, 934 degree E, which is 842 nautical miles or 1,560 kilometers from Perth. The results of the second study aligned with the previous analyses by Boeing, Inmarsat, and the drift analysis by UWA of the MH370 floating debris. The team also suggested that the WSPR technology could be used to track other aircraft in remote areas and prevent future disappearances. The studies by UWA have contributed to the ongoing efforts to solve the mystery of MH370 and provide closure to the families and friends of the victims. The studies have also demonstrated the power and potential of reverse drift modeling and WSPR technology for oceanographic and aviation applications. There is, however, a new report on the research conducted by Richard Jeffrey, which corroborates the findings by the UWA. Richard Jeffrey is a British aeronautical engineer who has been working on the mystery of MH370. He has used a novel method of tracking the aircraft's flight path and impact location based on a combination of satellite, radar, oceanographic, and radio data. His research has been published in a 232-page report, along with academics Hannes Coetzee and Professor Simon Maskell. Jeffrey's method relies on a technology called WSPR-NET, which stands for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter Network. This is a global network of amateur radio operators who transmit and receive low-power signals that can travel long distances. These signals are affected by the presence of aircraft, which reflect or scatter them in different directions. By analyzing the changes in signal strength and direction, Jeffrey was able to detect and track MH370 as it flew over the Indian Ocean. Jeffrey also used data from Inmarsat, the satellite company that received hourly pings from MH370's satellite communication system. These pings did not provide precise location information, but they indicated the distance and angle between the plane and the satellite. By combining these data with Boeing's performance data and oceanographic drift data, Jeffrey was able to narrow down the possible flight paths and impact locations of MH370. Jeffrey's analysis revealed that MH370 flew for nearly 7 hours after losing contact with air traffic control, covering a distance of about 5,000 kilometers. It flew westward over the Malay Peninsula, then turned southward over the Indian Ocean. It followed a curved trajectory that was influenced by the wind and the Earth's rotation. It crashed into the ocean at 0:26 on March 8, 2014, at a location of 30.57 degrees south and 98.75 degrees east. This is about 2,000 kilometers west of Perth, Australia, and about 1,000 kilometers north of the previous search area. Jeffrey's research has been hailed as a groundbreaking development in the search for MH370. It has been supported by other experts, such as Professor Charitha Patyarachi, the head of oceanography at the University of Western Australia, who said that Jeffrey's location is consistent with his own analysis of floating debris drift. Jeffrey's research has also been welcomed by the families of MH370 victims, who have been seeking closure and answers for more than 7 years. Jeffrey hopes that his research will lead to a new search for MH370, using underwater drones and specialized equipment to scan the ocean floor. He believes that finding MH370 is not only important for the families and loved ones of those on board, but also for the aviation industry and the flying public. He said, "We need to know what happened with MH370 and how we prevent that in the future."